Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. I am Debbie Brooks. I'm Senior Product Marketing Manager at ChiroTouch. I'm here today with our special guest, Toby Hughes. He is the Chief Operating Officer of Blueprint to Practice Automation. He will be presenting the last episode of the four-part series, Mastering Profitability. Today's topic is People to Profit, where Toby will share best practices that cultivate your team to optimize effectiveness and profit potential. A little bit of background on Toby. The focus of his career has been in technology services for Fortune 500 companies, and he has consistently produced a track record of success. As an entrepreneur, he has successfully launched and exited multiple companies. Toby values people and systems while passionately unifying a team towards a common vision. And as a proud husband and father of three, he leads his family's mission to serve God by serving people. So without further ado, on to you, Toby.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the introduction, Debbie. I really appreciate it, and excited to talk to the ChiroTouch Nation here today. And so we're going to be covering a lot of great content, and I'm sure it'll be a lot to absorb, but I'll try to give as strong a foundation as possible. So at this time, I'm going to turn off my camera, and so we can just jump right into it. All right, so we're going to be talking about the aspect of people when it comes to really, looking at the overall efficiency of your organization. So some of the things that we're going to be looking at today are, a KPI scorecard, your key performance indicators, aligning that company culture, assessing your team, defining clear roles, and then the meeting cadence and agendas. This is just a simple spreadsheet of where it's been organized, and it's pretty and color coded and everything. But ultimately, it just shows that you're breaking it down week by week and day by day, and you're being able to track these KPIs. So as we zoom in and look at it, this is essentially what it looks like. You'd have your primary KPIs such as collections and your total new patient starts. But then you'd have your phone KPI, so new marketing calls and how many scheduled, what was your schedule percentage and things of that nature. So you have your monthly goal, and then you'd be able to track your daily KPIs, and then you'll be able to really be able to identify and you need to know, are you on track or are you off track to be able to hit that monthly goal in aggregate. It's amazing how many new doctors that come into Blueprint that do not have any of their data like this. They don't have their business KPIs. And a good analogy that I can give is this is equivalent to you trying to treat your patients without doing any pre-exam, like without having any information to be able to diagnose your business. It's difficult, same way it is with the patient. So this is essentially your pre-exam. Us being able to have the KPIs and be able to visualize your key performance indicators in a snapshot is huge in being able to make the right decisions quickly. So up under primary, we have phones, patient visits. So how many are on the schedule, how many completed? So what was your show up percentage? This is an example of if you're doing nerve scans as a sort of a lead in before day one. And then the day one aspect. So how many were on schedule? How many completed? What was your show up percentage? How many of those scheduled over to a day two? So what was your conversion percentage there? So then just breaking down your day two, maybe your customer loyalty. You want to track how many, for instance, you might want to track how many Google reviews or video testimonials you receive. If you're implementing a seminar strategy, you want to be able to keep track of those KPIs as well. But again, just think about your business. Think about what are the primary aspects that you need as a CEO of your business to truly make those decisions. It's really essential. The cultural alignment aspect. So just a brief definition of this, it's when your team members' values, beliefs, and their behaviors are all in sync with the company's main principles and spirit. So you're looking at the values, beliefs, and behaviors of all of your team members and really looking at, is it producing the fruits that you're desiring, and is a true alignment with your company's principles and spirit. So, in your role as that chief executive officer, it's really a chief meaning officer, right? Like you're casting the meaning to what they're doing on the day to day. So like, where are we going? How are we going to get there? Which is a lot about what we talked about in our last session in regards to establishing your vision. But this is the most critical and overlooked aspect of the role of the chief meaning officer, chief executive officer, is being able to cast what's in it for me as far as to your team members, and making sure that you're establishing that win-win for them, and they're able to participate in accomplishing their dreams by accomplishing the dreams and the goals of the organization.
But these goals won't just be about you individually being able to accomplish these goals, because one of the things on that pyramid of success I talk about is being a team. And the big part of being a team is you have to be able to communicate with other people, and you have to work with other people. And you can never have any team chemistry for this reason. Mediocre people don't like high achievers, and high achievers don't like mediocre people. So if everybody doesn't buy into the same principles and values of the organization and the same high standard, you're never going to be successful.
I think that's just such a great and succinct way to say that. At Blueprint to Practice Automation, one of our core values is, excellence as a standard. And so one of the ways that we describe that is that every person needs to be intolerant of mediocrity around them. And so, if you think about the best athletes in the world, let's say they're playing a team sport, when they get on the field or on the court in their respective sport, they want to be surrounded by excellence as well. And so they're intolerant of mediocrity, of being around them, and they want to raise everybody up around them. So think about your organization and really looking at and having some self-awareness and some gut-wrenching conversations with some of saying, are they at that point? Do you feel like that they are all beating to the same drum and have the same level of expectation? So I think this is a neat way to sort of break it down. When you look at the culture of your organization, you look at your people, and you're trying to determine, okay, who do I need to hire? Who do I need to fire? Who do I need to train up? Who do I need to recognize? Who do I need to praise? Who do I need to promote? By the way, those 6 words right there are what dictate your values. It's what you're hiring, firing, training, recognizing, and praising and promoting off of. It doesn't really matter what you have on your wall as your list of core values. At the end of the day, what you're doing these 6 things according to, that's what your true values are. So we're going to break down 4 different types of people. We're just as an example in each one of these quadrants. So for instance, we have, on one axis we have the values, on the other axis we have results. So let's say that this person is a superstar. They embody the values of the organization and they're producing quality results. What would you do? Well, these are the people that you want to recognize, praise, and promote, and you also want to invest in. These are the ones that you want to double down on. You want to make sure that they always are looking to grow, and they see that you're investing in their growth. They don't feel stagnant. And these are the perfect people, right? Like as far as like employees, they're not perfect, but these are the ones that we are really wanting and really thankful and blessed to have as part of our organization. This next quadrant, I would say these are pretty easy. Like if they are not producing results and they are showing to be abandoning the values of the organization, my recommendation is that you let them go, and let them go as quickly as you possibly can. If you don't feel like that you can possibly train that or correct that with a few conversations or performance plan. This next one, I would say that this is probably the one that is the most challenging, and it's the one that I see small business owners sort of perplexed by and get stuck with more often than not. It's someone that they are close friends. They definitely are the embodiment of the values of the organization, but man, they just are not producing the results. Well, if you look at the icon that's used here, it's a person in a canoe. When I have these conversations with team members that are in sort of this quadrant, this is the analogy that I give them. I tell them, I said, I want you to think about the fact that we are both in the canoe together. Now, I need you to row. I need you to row on your behalf. I need you to row towards these results, and here are the action steps that I'm asking you to take. Now, I'm going to be rowing with you. We're in the canoe and we're rowing together. But at the point that I feel like I'm rowing harder than you are willing to row for yourself, that's the point that we have just an honest dialogue, and it's time to get out of the boat. So I get their commitment that they are going to be the hardest workers on their behalf. If you feel like you're constantly trying to defend them or make excuses for them or justify their results, or give them layups or things of that nature, then they are doing a disservice to the organization, and you are doing a disservice to the organization by not having those hard conversations. Last but not least, you see it's an icon of a toilet on fire, because this is definitely something that will burn your house down. It's one of the hardest situations to be in. It's when your top performer is just crapping all over the values of the organization. It's really hard in a small office. If you have someone that is a high performer, but they're a direct misalignment to the values, it's a gut-wrenching decision as a business owner of how you're going to transition that out. But I will say that the longer that they stay in their role, your values mean nothing. Your values mean nothing at that point, because every single new person that comes in, they look at that high performer that's getting praised and recognized and paid at a high level. They're looking at that as the template for success. And so they're going to emulate that, and it's just going to perpetuate throughout and permeate through your organization.
Yeah, I think the business is not about strategy. That follows great teams. I don't think it's about next year's budget. I think it's about the best people on the field. I live that every day. I'm evaluating people in every meeting. Every meeting's a personnel meeting. Might be a budget review. No, it's a personnel review. Don't kid yourself. That's what it is. You're assessing people all the time. And the heat is on for them to get better and better and better. And if you're driving that, if you're not falling in love with some crony that you got there, if you're not falling in love with somebody's relative or something else, you're better off, because you're always trying to get a winning team. You're always trying to be, whether it be the 40 Yankees or the this and that football team or the Green Bay Packers or whatever you want to pick, but you want to be a winner. And you are relentless in building that team. And if you've got a team, that team will sustain you generation after generation. A culture of fairness, a culture, you define that culture, those behaviors you want, you get those, and you get a great team, man, you can't be beat. They'll figure out the changes. So some people always ask me, this is changing, that's changing. Well, if you get the right players, they'll love the change. Every time there's a change, it's an opportunity.
I love Welch. I think he's definitely wise. He has a little bit of old school tactics, but I love that video, and I couldn't believe it more. It is so much about the team, and those first few hires of your organization, they are essential. They really are essential. You need a nucleus of people that you can depend on, that can make sure that they're aligned with your vision and the cultural aspects of your organization, of what you're trying to accomplish. So it's so you have multiple people in sort of tentacles going out throughout your organization. The next concept that I want to share with you is it may be a new concept for a lot of you on this call, but it's really neat. It's a concept called, we call it a functional chart in Blueprint to Practice Automation. We help over 1,000 doctors implement this type of structure within their clinic, and ultimately what it allows for is that you're breaking down the primary functions of an organization. You identify who the owner is of that function, and what the associated responsibilities are, it really allows you to cast defined lanes for your team members and clear communication lines of like who is responsible for what. And then it also has a very clear reporting structure that it sort of just naturally establishes. So if you look at a chiropractic clinic, for the most part, it can be bucketed into 10 primary functions. So you have the vision and then the implementation of the vision. So then you have marketing, finance, operations, the clinical aspect, case management, treatment, front desk, and then back office. This is just in generality of all the doctors that we've worked with. Yes, there are some sort of instances where something could jump out of this, but for the most part, this is hitting the majority of clinics and how they naturally flow. So this is also one of the resources that we have at Blueprint to Practice Automation. It shows the different levels of practices. So at the top, that number that you'll see up under each level is typically the revenue cap at that size of team. So like for instance, if you look at a level 2, you're typically capping out at a max of 750,000 in collections if you're only running with an owner, an office manager, and a chiropractic assistant. You know, and then the other levels you can sort of just infer what the other levels mean. The ones that have a lighter person in there, that indicates that role is typically optional. So you can see how it sort of cascades out. And again, ultimately, our goal is, especially for the Blueprint doctors, is to make sure our purpose at Blueprint is to create freedom for doctors. And the thing that we do better than any organization in the world is we provide automated clinical programs. So for us to do that, we also then have to make sure that we're providing the resources and the structure to train doctors like yourselves to be true CEOs of their businesses and to be able to evolve. So like for instance, if you're looking here, the blue box represents everything that you as the owner or the CEO is currently owning. The fact is that just because you're the only person, like there's a whole list of things. Like if you look at level 1, all these things have to be done. It's just that you're the only one that's there doing it. So our goal is to help you to evolve. So if you look at this, it's a clear representation of like what's typically being delegated when, and eventually like working all the way towards level 6 on the right side of the screen, of where eventually you'll be able to be the CEO of the organization and ultimately just responsible for the vision and strategy and the research and development from the clinical side. So again, you have the freedom. We want to make sure that our doctors have the opportunity and the freedom and the blueprint to be able to accomplish sort of this type of roadmap. So again, a functional chart versus an org chart. I'm going to give you some examples of a functional chart here in a second, but a single person can own multiple functions. So that's one of the big differentiators. Although multiple people can be assigned to a function, someone should clearly be tasked with leading and managing that function. Cross-function communications encouraged. And so I'll just go straight into showing some examples. So here's a level 2 example of where, if you look at the top, it's only a 3-person team, right? So you have Tom as the CEO and Mary as the office manager and Julie as the chiro assistant. Well, you still have those primary functions. So you just look down though, and you can see under vision, Tom is responsible for the vision. Tom's also over implementation. Tom's over marketing, but you have Mary that's over operations. And then Julie comes into play because, you know, you can see down here that Julie is under treatment. She's doing the rehab and therapy and nerve scans. And then also she's doing the back office stuff. So insurance verification, collections, data entry, compliance. So this shows of how you can see what the functions are, who's responsible for what. And it doesn't really change much once you plug people into those spots. So for instance, we're gonna go level 2 straight to level 3. So now there's 7 people on the team, but if you look, these functions are not really drastically changing, but now you have more people that are stepping in to do the different aspects of it. let's just go all the way up to, we'll go to a level, yeah, let's go level 5. This is a 12-person team, but now, you have Tom that's still sitting there, vision and implementation, but now Tom's been able to hire Dave, who is an outside rep, helping on the sales and the marketing side. He now has, Mary is still the office manager, but now we have someone that's over front desk. So we have Amy, who's a front desk manager, Nicole and Jacob, who are, front desk assistants. We have Mike in back office, and now we have 3 different people that are doing different types of treatment. You also have two people that are doing case management now. So it's a very clear path to show, who's doing what and who's reporting to who. So for instance, in this, we would encourage that Tom would have a clinical meeting, and John and Scott and Amanda, Julie, and Lisa would be in that meeting. So, and that would be a clinical focused meeting each week. Same thing here. Mary would have an operations meeting, and she would have that with Tom, Amy, and Mike. And so it really starts delineating and showing who's responsible for what. And you can, as the CEO, see, that's what's interesting. Like with Tom, if he's over clinical, in theory, in that role, he's working in the organization and he reports to Mary from that function standpoint. So, like she's still over operations, and he doesn't need to undermine her role. He's essentially playing a tactical role of being over the clinical side of the business. And again, here's just a fully built out high level organization with 17 people and what that breakdown could look like. So now we're going to go in real quick into the team cadence. If you are not having a regular meeting cadence, I would say that that is definitely something you should look to implement sooner rather than later. The model that we see typically work well is, it's a sort of 4-pronged approach. You have your daily stand-up, your weekly level-up meeting, your quarterly review and forecast, and then your yearly planning meeting. So we'll break down sort of the agendas of each one of these meetings to just sort of cast a vision for you. So this daily stand-up, I'd imagine if there's one that you are doing right now, this is probably typically it. And it's a really quick hit. It's like 15 minutes. Again, it's called stand-up because hopefully you can do it standing up, and you go through and essentially you're talking about how to kick off the day. It should be a little bit high energy. KPIs to cover, so previous day collections, what the total patient visits were, what was your show up percentage, what was your sign up percentage. Then you discuss the opportunities that they're in front of you today. Again, it's not meant to be overdone. It's your most essential aspect. So you could point out if there's anyone coming in with birthdays, any red flags to be, mindful of, like so-and-so's coming in and they were upset about, a payment error or this or that. Any new patients that are on the schedule, KPIs to cover, so number of visits that are on the schedule that day, number of day 1 visits, number of day 2 visits, and number of progress reports. So those are typically the ones that we see are the most common to have as far as KPIs to cover. You then align with the team, so potential patient flow obstacles, requests for additional help, any in-office promotions, overarching goals. That's where you can cover that. And then last but not least, just, it's a quick time to just inspire and motivate your team. Share something funny, share something personal, really just get everyone aligned in spirit and mind. So here's an example of a daily stand-up worksheet that if you have an office manager that's going to be leading that meeting, they need to just go ahead and just fill this out. So they have it just ready right there in front of them. They're able to call out the numbers from the previous day and today's opportunities. So the next meeting cadence is a weekly level up meeting. This is typically a 1-hour meeting, and it, this is where you're going over that scorecard. And again, it's the KPIs that you feel like are the most essential as the CEO to run your organization. And you're looking at, again, we talked about the 90-day pillars. So those big 90-day, initiatives that you have established. So you'll report weekly on whether or not they are on track or off track. And then this is also where you get to go through and start identifying obstacles. If there are issues to be tackled, this is where you list it out. This is where you start discussing it as a team, and you establish ownership and start mapping out action items to tackle each one of those obstacles. The quarterly review and forecast. So this is typically a half-a-day meeting. You typically want to bring in we see a lot of people do it with the entire organization. If you have a leadership team in place, maybe it's just the leadership team. But the typical agenda for this is some sort of like icebreaker team exercise, just get everyone to loosen up and get on the same page. You review the previous quarter. You do a financial performance review. So looking at your P&L, and then your foundational planner, which is what we covered in our last session, which is looking at your vision and values. So your 1-year vision, your 3-year vision, and then making sure that that's in order and that's in line. You are now looking at your 90-day pillars from the previous quarter, and then establishing your new 90-day pillars. And then again, you're breaking through these are typically larger obstacles that you're breaking through in these type of meetings. And then last but not least, you have your annual planning meeting. So this is typically a 2-day. So this is where on the first day, you're reviewing the previous quarter and year at large. You're doing a full financial performance review. This is where you really start digging in, and you want to do a full assessment of the team. You want to, again, look at your vision and values, make sure that everything's in order there. That's on the first day typically. And then your second day is where at the beginning of the day, we recommend that you start listing out a list of obstacles, and then during the day, you can start adding to those obstacles as they come up. You align on the next year's plan, and then you establish what those 90-day pillars are going to be for that next quarter. And then you start tackling that obstacles list that you've been building out sort of during the entire session. So this is the flow that we recommend: a daily, a weekly, quarterly, and then a yearly cadence is typically what we see work really well. Yes, these are some sort of large thoughts and large concepts that can require more conversation. We're always happy to help. Our entire Blueprint team is glad to help the ChiroTouch community. And so we are very thankful for the opportunity, and we're proud to serve you guys.
Toby, there's some great stuff in here, and I myself am looking forward to getting the presentation too. I love what you referred to as the Chief Meeting Officer. That is like so spot on. I really love that. And also want to make the point for tracking KPIs. There's so much that practices and CEOs, office owners can rely on their practice management software. So if you're looking to, measure your collections and revenue, patient visits and procedures, and a lot of the other KPIs that you laid out, there's rich reporting at least available in ChiroTouch. We have dozens of reports to help support you there.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Toby, thank you so much for an engaging and really informative presentation. I want to also extend a thank you to those that have attended today. If you have any questions, or if you're looking for more information from Toby on his company or ChiroTouch, you can scan the QR code up on the screen or reach out to us directly. Thank you again, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next time.